The anti-business Obama White House strikes again. Now, President Obama wants to use executive authority to tell companies how much overtime they should pay. Wait a minute. In our free enterprise system, government has no business telling companies who to pay, how much to pay, when to pay, and any other business decisions. What we've got here is a little old-style Soviet central planning, and I don't like it one bit. Now, here we have two old friends of the show, and I'm glad to welcome them both back. Dean Baker, who's co-director, Center for Economic and Policy Research, and Dan Mitchell, senior fellow at the Cato Institute. Dean, I just got to tell you, you know what bothers me about this? Is the executive order to order businesses to do something. I don't care. You want to give them more money? Set up a wage subsidy or darn thing like that and put it in a budget. But the presidents of this country have no business telling businesses how to run themselves. That's what infuriates me.
Well, Larry, if the minimum wage is Soviet-style central planning, you're going to make the Soviet Union very popular. Let's just keep our eye on the ball here. We already have a minimum wage. That's not what we're arguing over here. What they're talking about is salaried workers. So as it stands now, if I'm hiring someone and I'm paying them $20 an hour and I say I want you to work 45 hours a week, I have to pay that person overtime. That's not President Obama. That's the law. Now, what President Obama is saying is, suppose I'm really clever and I go, I'm not going to pay you $20 an hour. I'm going to pay you $800 a week. Under the current law, I don't have to pay that worker overtime. Now, that doesn't make any sense, Larry. What he's just saying is let's make it symmetric.
No, what it's just saying is I'm going to do it alone without the consent of the elected representatives of the American people. By the way,
he has the authority to do that.
I don't care.
They gave him that authority.
I don't know who gave him that authority, but all be taken back. I mean,
presidents have done that in the past.
Well,
he's just doing what past presidents have done.
Bush did it, Dan Mitchell, and Bush was just as wrong, even though the numbers were smaller. The point is, first of all, the minimum wage is a lousy way to help people. It only helps a small amount of people, Dan Mitchell, and it causes job losses. That's what even the CBO says. But then this idea right here, since when does our government tell business how to run and who to pay? This is something new, and the numbers here are getting larger, and that's what I don't like.
Larry, you're on a roll. We need you on the air another 20 years to help. Otherwise, we'll never educate Dean about basic economics. Here's what we have to understand. Whether we're talking about minimum wage, whether we're talking about this overtime reg, whether we're talking about all the mandates and costs and taxes with Obamacare, in this country, we are making it more and more expensive to hire workers. We are making ourselves more like France, Italy, Greece, and places like that. And guess what? Are the job markets there good? Do workers have upward mobility? No. We are being the failed model of Western Europe when we should be trying to copy the East Asian tigers like Singapore and Hong Kong, where there's a lot of upward mobility. People get a chance. They climb the ladder because the burden of government is small.
See, Dean, I'm going to argue, Dean, that whatever the good intentions are, there are better ways to achieve them that won't violate the legal sanctity and the free enterprise of American companies.
Larry, we've been here before.
That's what I object to. You want to give
Larry, we've been here before. The 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. We had great growth. We had higher minimum wage.
We had terrible growth. We had good growth because JFK cut taxes in the 60s.
We had good growth even in the 50s before he cut taxes, Larry.
We did not.
We had rapidly rising wages, very strong productivity growth. Everything was going the right way.
We had 3 recessions in the 1950s. But this whole system, look, listen to what I'm saying. I know it's been done. I know it's been done. What I'm saying is I don't like the precedent, and I feel like I have to speak out. And I believe that President Obama is doing this deliberately as an executive decision to make some kind of statement, among other things, because this whole Obamacare platform, the apple of his eye, the whole legislative thing is falling apart. So now he's trying to look like a tough guy, and he's violating freedom. Dean, he's violating freedom. That's my problem with this. Not the money. It's not the money.
He's just making it symmetric, Larry. The minimum wage law is already on the books. He's just applying it across the board. It's pretty hard. You know, again, the Republicans could try to repeal the minimum wage law, but that's what he's just doing. He's applying it across the board rather than having this peculiarity where I could pay a worker $400 a week and say, $800 a week and say you don't get overtime. If I pay them $20 an hour, they get overtime. Doesn't make any sense.
Dan Mitchell, the CBO, which is coming to its senses, the Congressional Budget Office, scored the minimum wage a job loser, scored Obamacare as a job loser. I bet you they'd score this as a job loser, this overtime thing.
They probably would, and this gets at the underlying issue. Frederick talked about, 150, 200 years ago. the difference between the seen and the unseen. Dean wants us to focus on the fact, yes, some workers will get more money with a minimum wage hike, some workers will benefit with an overtime reg, but some workers are going to lose their jobs. They're going to get 100% of zero.
Actually, not,
they're going to get overtime of
fewer
zero.
hours and get more when they do work.
But if there's a cost, someone's going to bear it. And businesses are not endlessly full-pocketed entities that can deal with all the fairy dust coming out of Washington saying you have to pay more here and pay more there.
Than they were 40 years ago. We're just raising it back to where it was 40 years ago.
I got to get out. Dean, I love you. I know we disagree. I'm just telling you, somebody's got to stand up and make a fight about this stuff. That's all. I know your point of view, and I respect it. I just think this is absolutely dead. Dean Baker, Dan Mitchell, thanks for both.